And number 15 is Luca is starting a rock collection. He collects unusual rocks wherever he can find them. He wants to know how different rock sizes compare to their weights. So he measures the weights of his 10 favorite rocks and recorded the results below. So now this is in ounces. As you can see, we have our rock weights. So complete the line plot using Luca's data. Remember to add a title and a label. All right, well, the easy one here, we have, we know that our numbers are the rock weights in ounces, so we can go ahead and take this and rewrite that down here on the line. Rock weights, and the abbreviation for ounces is OZ. Now we need to come up with a title. So, based on the description up here, something that stood out to me was Luca's rock collection. That's what this problem is based off of anyway, so it only made sense to include that. Alright, now we need to complete our line plot. So what we're going to do is we will be using X's on this line to put where our measurements fall. So I'm looking here at 5 3/4. I know 3/4 is in between 5 1/2 and 6. So I'm going to put an X. I'm going to try to put all my X's about the same size, just so it doesn't visually throw off my graph. And then I can put a check mark beside it when I know I used it. Next is 6 1/2. Next we have 7 1/4. I know a fourth is in between 7 and 7 1/2. 7 3/4 between 7 1/2 and 8. And you could absolutely label these lines if you wanted, if that makes it a little bit easier for you. Then you may absolutely do that. We have 5 1/2, 8 1/4, 7 3/4. Oops, that's two of those. We have 5 1/4, 7 3/4, and 6 1/4. Now I know I crossed them off, but I always want to be as careful as possible. So let's count, make sure we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the question. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on our line plot. So far everything is looking good. Alright, now our first question wants to know what is our most common weight of the rocks in his collection. And that's an obvious one. It's the only one that repeated. And whether you look here at our chart or their line plot, or you look up in the numbers listed above, you're going to see the reoccurring theme, which is 7 3/4 ounces. Letter C wants to know what is the combined weight of the 5 heaviest rocks. Okay, so when we're talking heavy, we're talking the biggest numbers, so I'm going to look here, and this or these are the ones that we are going to be looking at. Okay, they're going to be our 5 heaviest. They have the biggest numbers. So our number model we are going to do here is 8 1/4 plus 7 3/4 plus 7 3/4 plus 7 3/4 plus we have 7 1/4. Now, what I'm going to do is first, if you're not using a calculator, it probably makes most sense to add up your whole numbers, add up your fractions, and then go ahead and combine them all. So I'm going to first do my whole numbers. So 8 and 7 is 15. 15 plus 7 more is 22. 22 plus 7 more is 29. And 29 plus 7 more is 36. So my whole numbers equal 36. Now, I'm going to combine some fractions that equal 1. I see I have a fourth and 3/4, so that equals 1. And I have another 3/4 and a fourth, so that equals 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. And that leaves just a 3/4 left over. So now I have the whole numbers equal 36, and the fractions equal 2 and 3/4. I combine those together for my final answer of 38 3/4 ounces. And our last question on this review is, what is the difference between the heaviest and the lightest rocks? Now, our first instinct probably draws our attention. We have a 9 and a 5. And you might be thinking, oh, awesome, 9 minus 5 is 4. But that is not the case. We cannot use those numbers because we didn't use those numbers in our data. So we have to use the biggest number in our data, or our set of data, and we need to use the smallest number in our set of data. Now the good news is it still works out to be a pretty simple problem for us, and that is 8 1/4 minus our smallest number is 5 1/4. So as promised, the math involved in this question still pretty simple. We have a fourth minus a fourth. They cancel each other out, and then we just do 8 minus 5 equals 3, and that is ounces. So the difference in their weight, which told us to subtract, is 3 ounces.